Welcome, my darling pretties, to our Beyond the Dawn of Business podcast for pretty, empowered female entrepreneurs. It's time to step into your power, pretties. Lift each other, support the squad, and choose a life filled with the autonomy and freedom to live your dreams. I'm your host, Dawn Beth, owner and founder of Beyond the Dawn digital business brand and agency. My coffee is hot and my eyelashes are on, so we are ready to go. Hi, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to invite my lovely friend and client, Denise Matthews, onto the podcast so that we can talk about what it's like when you're changing jobs, when you're changing careers, or doing a big pivot in your business or essentially in your life. Welcome, Denise.
Oh, hello. Welcome from. I'm sitting talking to you from sunny Spain. Here's my pivot.
Yay, we love that. We love that. Give our listeners a little rundown as to who you are and what it is that you do, your zone of genius.
Thanks, Dawn. Okay, so I've been a career executive coach since about 2006. After I sort of got a fairly busy career in retail ops, doing some big jobs. When I had the family, I needed something much more flexible, like we all do. So I searched around, like lots of my clients do, and found recruitment. And so started to work as a recruitment consultant, and again working with really senior people, and absolutely loving finding that fit for getting the right people into the right jobs, so that the candidate that's going into the job wins and the client wins because they've got a great fit. And it became really important to me to get the fit right. It was never about a fee; it was about a fit. Um, and so, because of that, in the early 2000s, I decided that I needed to develop more of a coaching style to my recruitment. And so, trained, got ILM 7, became an executive recruitment coach. Um, and when people went into those big jobs, as part of our package, we gave them 90 days support, because it's often in those first 90 days in a new job that people start to lose their way a little bit and they're feeling a bit uncomfortable. And so, because myself and my partner at the time, my business partner, understood that, we were able to give them the support using our knowledge of the business and our knowledge of them as a candidate and what we'd found out about them through the recruitment journey. So that worked really, really well. And so, yeah, I stayed in recruitment, but naturally started to coach and just started to help people really through their talent journey. Because even if you're in the most perfect job in the world, sometimes it doesn't fit because something changes at home, the ownership of the business changes, or the company, culture can take a move if with a change of ownership. So inevitably, we started to do lots of more coaching alongside recruitment. And then I went in house and worked in house and ran big recruitment teams, and that was a real blessing of a job. I worked with some fantastic teams and really learned as well. Whilst I'd been an entrepreneur for a long time, I really loved being back in the flow of working with business. And so that for me was really quite important, and it was a big learning for me. However, I was at ASOS and that was open 24/7. And so I just did that for a couple of years. And I'm really fortunate because my team there have all gone on and done great things, and I'm really proud of them. But I decided, and then literally almost at that moment along came COVID. And the phone started to ring with people saying, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm having to learn to work from home," and all the challenges that people were facing. And I didn't really feel fully qualified to be able to help people. I was still recruiting. I was still got clients, even though I was supposedly running things down. I still got clients saying, "Will you do this? Will you just do that?" Yeah, I will. Um, but then I really didn't really feel that I had enough knowledge. So I decided to take myself off and do an extra qualification. And I went and trained with Firework, which have been doing career coaching for about 15, 20 years. And so, yeah, I got myself qualified again, started reading again, started learning again, and became a career coach. And so that's what I've been doing for the last few years. And so I've got two sides to the business. I love both. I do some one-to-one coaching with people that come to me who've just got to a point maybe in their career where they're not sure if they're doing the right thing, if they feel their company's not giving them the recognition. How can they get that? What can they do? What can they change? It's quite a strong element of mentoring as well as coaching in there. And that's been my personal growth as well over the last 3 years, is becoming more of a mentor as well as a coach. And so I work with fairly senior people, leaders, managers, directors, taking them through journeys. And what's been fascinating about that is that sometimes it's not the job you change, it's the circumstances around that job. So 2 or 3 of my clients have ended up setting up side hustles, and then the day job's okay because they've got a side hustle that they're absolutely loving, and they can see that being their long-term growth opportunity. Or they've gone to their employers and said, this isn't working for me because, and they've had the courage to do that. And the employers have gone, yeah, absolutely, we don't want to lose you. And so that's the sort of work I do one-to-one, and I totally love it. But the part that I'm sort of growing into and doing a lot more of is working with businesses, leadership and mentoring, working with CEOs, COOs, directors, where a business is in growth or in trouble, whichever way it is, and having a really good look at what's happening. Usually my part is what they're doing with their teams and how they're managing their people. Are they making the best of those people? Are those people feeling really rewarded, involved? It's very easy when things get a bit hectic, like either really busy or really bad, to go into a tunnel, isn't it, as a leader, and just keep going, keep going, keep going, and getting people to open up and accept the absolute genius they've often got in that organisation. So that's sort of what I do. And I also do some pro bono work. Last year I worked with Danny Wallace, who's got the Fly Anyway Foundation, and I joined her to do some work on that. And then this year I've become a mentor for the Help to Grow programme through the Association of Business Mentors. I've got an extra qualification for that, new ILM qualification for that. And I'm working with businesses that the government have invested in terms of helping them to set up, grow small business SMEs. And I'm on their books as a mentor for anyone that wants the type of support I can offer. And I've got some clients on there that I'm absolutely loving working with, because they're right at the start of such an exciting journey, and they've got all this sort of great support from the government programme. They pay like £750 for the programme, but what we do as mentors it's pro bono. So yeah, I'm busy.
You sound really busy, but in the best possible way.
A best way. Yeah.
The best
it
possible
is.
way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I put this post out on LinkedIn this week, and it was a nod to some of the people that I've worked with previously, and it got a really, really strong response, and not so much publicly, but I got lots of messages, and it was about me suggesting, because I see this, as I'm sure you see it quite regularly as well, that oftentimes you can look at a business in terms of how things are performing and how things are going, and it can be the CEO or the COO or the director that's actually the weakest link. And I think that it's quite a important thing for us as founders, as directors, as CEOs, as leaders, to recognise that actually sometimes the things that need to be worked on come from us. Come from the stem, come from the person whose shoulders it actually started with, And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think as a leader, being able to recognise that actually I need support, I need somebody like Denise to come and help me to recognise what talent I've got in my team, and to make sure that I'm not kind of overseeing, overlooking, undervaluing my people, which is so important, your greatest business asset. I feel like that's a really strong move for a leader.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's, I think as well, the absolute joy. Some of the people that have worked with me over the years, that, I mean, they are, and many of them are now friends because it's sort of those things transition. But, I've got one group of recruiters, and we haven't worked together for 9 or 10 years, but we've got an active WhatsApp group. We ask each other for advice and support. We always know we can rely on each other, and we meet up a couple of times a year and go and put the world to rights and find out what we've all been up to. And I'm so proud of them because they've all done so well. But also, I get a lot back from that. And I never, ever underestimate the value that they give me. So, yes, I was once their manager, but now they're giving back to me. And, last week I had a situation with a client and I thought, I don't know what to do with this. Right, I'm going to go out and ask. And I've got 3 or 4 groups like that. And I think that's what, as I know you through the solopreneur, entrepreneur world, but just think about the great people that I've met along the way in those networks.
Yeah.
They bring so much value. And I think, when people are thinking about their careers and the way forward, they can sometimes get really anxious about networking and being seen to be out there, hustling for a job or something like that. And the other part of my role is teaching people that that's okay and there's a great way to do it. And you will get back as much as you give if you do it correctly and you do it in the right way, like I think we do in our world. Then you will get so much back. I love that connection piece of networking when it's done well.
I 100% agree. And one of the things that's always a delight when we chat, Denise, is how on the same page we always are with those types of things. Because I do feel that, especially for the people that you've worked with and mentored in the past, it's a stressful time. Being in that situation of transition or not being quite certain about what the next stage will be. And, for entrepreneurs, for the small businesses, the entrepreneurs and those types of people who perhaps are still working but have a side hustle and want to move into entrepreneurship, like we make jokes, don't we, about the word entrepreneur literally means risk. And we make jokes about how we are the ones that throw ourselves out of the frying pan into the fire. And, the rewards that we reap are often based on how big the risks are. That being said, that doesn't mean you have to go it alone, do you? And your connections and your community and the people that you choose to support and have support you can actually, I often believe, be the make or break. Like, take the risk, but also take care of yourself at the same time. Recognise the risk. Surround yourself with the right support and the right people. And like you say, not being scared to build that network and allow yourself to infiltrate different communities that perhaps you wouldn't have naturally been a part of before.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think as well, that's been the other thing that, with the COVID scenario, is that we all stopped meeting face to face. And for me, I found that incredibly difficult because I had built, I've been in business as an entrepreneur on and off for like 25 years, as was my dad. My dad had his own business. Both my daughters have their own business. It's what we do. But losing that face-to-face connection was really, really challenging for me. And I've not quite ever enjoyed it as much as I do face-to-face. So now that we can get out there, I mean, you and I meet in a few weeks, and we can get out there. I mean, every opportunity comes along, I'm in. Count me in. I'm there. And the energy that you pick up from that. And, I say to all my clients, go to the places where the people you want to be are and go and find out what they're talking about. Go and hear what's topical. And in the same way as that, LinkedIn, it's our biggest personal website that we can possibly have. And I work really hard with my clients on that, so that they really make the most of it. And most of them are really quite anxious about it when they start. It's, they see it as this corporate machine, and it's not. It is such a benefit. And if you follow LinkedIn news and all those sorts of things, you can learn some fantastic stuff that you can start to join in conversations in a really natural way. And I still think it's quite underused for people who want to grow their careers. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And what I like about LinkedIn is that, like you say, it had that kind of persona, if you will, from all the areas that you could network. It was the one that was perceived to be a bit stuffy and a bit corporate. And it makes me giggle a little bit now when I think about you and I and some of our friends in the business world. How many of us started off in that entrepreneurship arena without actually tapping into corporate, and now how many of us are actually working within corporates. We look at corporate as a bad thing, and actually it's not a bad thing. LinkedIn isn't like that anymore. It's nowhere near as stuffy as it used to be. But also I think that whereas small businesses and those who are changing career or starting up a side hustle or any of those things, they look at corporate and they think that corporate have got it all sussed, and yet corporate coming to us, the individual small business or medium-sized enterprise entrepreneurs, and we're teaching them things that have been missed, overlooked, or used to be in practice and are no longer in practice because of many different things. I mean, you and I could talk about this all day. Thousands of different things, culture, thousands of different things to do with task, recruitment, people, environment, COVID having a massive effect on businesses across the globe. It's all relative, isn't it? And I think one of the hardest things is recognizing which elements require the right support. And I think, sadly, in your sector, it's an underutilized or understood. It's not well understood just how helpful it can be to have somebody like you actually in their corner. And I feel like I wish more people, because even with us, with marketing, you wouldn't believe how many people come to us that have never, ever arranged a marketing budget. And that would seem like a really simple thing, right? Everybody needs a marketing budget, but they don't. So then when you think about your support, they're not budgeting for support like yourself, but it's invaluable. No. The return on that support is crazy high, and yet it is overlooked. It is under-considered. And it's such a shame because, I mean, in terms of like your business, you're always busy because of who you are and your expertise, which is wonderful. But there are so many more people who could benefit from your help that haven't discovered the value in that yet. And I always want to elevate what it is that you do, because you elevate people. That's your entire business. You're an Elevate Careers coach. You actually give them that basis, that platform for their voice to be heard. And I wish more people would utilise that. I really wish more people would kind of put more weight behind that and what it can actually do for you going forward.
Yeah, I think investing in yourself is one of the hardest things, isn't it? And believing that you're going to get that return on investment. And that's why I love what they've done at the Association of Business Mentors in creating that program, because a lot of the SMEs we're working with, they're being introduced to that as part of the right way to operate, which, is really, really clever, because a lot of them then go on and say, well, actually, when they get 10 weeks, when their 10 weeks is up, 10 sessions, they say, well, I don't want to let go of this. I want to carry on. So I think that's a really positive thing. So then they become a paid client. If they want to carry on, they move into a paid client situation. But they're learning very early on that the investment in themselves, and sometimes the challenge. I mean, you challenge me all the time. I'll sit and say to you, I've got this idea, and you go, okay, let's just talk that through. No, Denise, you can't launch a campaign when you haven't done 6 months preparation. No. So, whatever it's going to be. But that's what I really value from the experts around me. Even my VA will say, are you really sure about that? And I go, I think it's a great idea. She'll go, well, let's just break that down. And that's the way we work. And that is exactly the way careers should work as well. When I start with people and I say, okay, right, we're going to look at all the points in your life star and all the points in your work star that are important to you. And so we look at everything in terms of what they're good at, where they think they could do with some development, the things, their values, their culture, all of those. But we load it over like about 6, 7 sessions with everything to know about each other. And we build a big house of knowledge. What do you actually know, and what are you using of that knowledge? And then what you're looking for is balance as well, because all too often people think that they've just got to work. And in the UK, we're worse than anywhere almost. We think we've got to work these incredibly long hours, always be accessible, and put yourself out there and not look at the balance of the fact that you're a better human being if work and home is balanced. And so the things that are important to you in your lifestyle have got to be just as balanced as your work style. It can't be, neither one can weigh each other out, because that makes you a whole individual. And that to me is really important. And that's why you invest in yourself and you learn about yourself. You don't just get up every morning and keep going. You journal, you think, and you put things together.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I remember having my perspective shifted. It was years and years ago now, but it was a conversation about motivation, intrinsic motivation. And I know that you've covered this with people before, and I know that we've discussed this before as a ideology. But the idea that money is the main motivator is almost the surface level answer of most people who've never delved deeper, isn't it? And then when you ask somebody,
totally.
okay, well, I'll give you £1 million and your job is to sit at a desk and count coffee beans for the rest of your life. It's not actually money that's the motivator, is it? Because then that feeling of £1 million, but I've got to spend 8 hours a day doing this monotonous task, like that's going to drive me. And then all of a sudden the value of that £1 million isn't there. There is a deeper value, which is obviously your mindset, your enjoyment, your fulfillment, the feeling of personal purpose, being able to lean into who you are as part of your identity. This is always what blows my mind when you and I have conversations, Denise, because everything that we do, we're in completely different sectors, and yet the cross sections of what we mentor, the cross sections of what we teach, what we support, is so similar that it's almost like you can't have one without the other. And I do wish that when you get into that state of you're like, right, I've got a business and I need business basics, I do wish that this stuff was just so commonplace, like your messaging, your values, your mission, your purpose, your balance between what you want your life to be, what your version of success is. I mean, you and I worked on that for a long time, and that was a lot of fun. Like, what is our version of success? And I love all of that. I really feel like it's not just a career thing. We have to put it that way. Like,
No,
I have
it's
to
not.
say I'm marketing because that's what you think you need. You think you need marketing, so you come to me because I'm marketing. You need career support, you need pivotal support, you need team support, leadership support. So they come to you because you're a careers coach and mentor, right? But actually what we do is, when we unpick it, is we unpick the person in the best possible way about having a fulfilled and good life, essentially. But we're not life coaches, but we might as well be.
Totally. Oh, no. No, I always worry that people might think I am one of those, because I could never be that. But I think because we're both quite challenging, but with a softness, I hope, that gets people through those things, and just ask the occasional pointed question that makes people realise that it doesn't have to be like this. And even for ourselves, I think totally recognise. I mean, look at your transition as to how where you started and where you are. I mean, it's a phenomenal. It's a great story about how you've gone through your pretty sort of journey, and even now I'm just changing my model again slightly, because I've decided for my quality of life I want to do a bit more with business. I'm really missing being in the hub of an organisation. So the work I'm doing with businesses, I absolutely love it, because when I go in there, I'm working with their purpose and where they want to be. And so I feel like part of the team. So it's like being back in that whole team world. And I really enjoy that. So, I love my one-to-one work, but the business work just gives me that extra sizzle. And
Yeah.
so, I'm moving my model at the moment to do a little bit more in the corporate world and going back to, my own roots. We both started in corporate. So, it's like saying, oh, actually, I think I might quite enjoy that again. And I am enjoying it. So, yeah.
I must admit, there's been an element of enjoyment for me too. I've not done a lot of work with corporations, but I am moving more into it. I know you already know, but I've been helping with intrinsic buy-in from employees and using my positive psychology to support a couple of larger scale businesses, not massive corporations, but between the 500
Yeah.
and 1,000 employee mark, to kind of appreciate how they can engage, which is so similar to what we're doing when we're building audiences and having audiences buy into our
Yeah.
businesses. It's the same, it's inward rather than outward. So that there is employee buy-in, so that they are getting, the most out of the people who are truly dedicated, but also giving a really kind of loving and gentle out for those who perhaps have found themselves in a space that they're not fully loving what they're doing, or they're not fully emotionally invested in the part that they play in that machine. Because I do think with
Yeah.
corporate, and I remember when I was in corporate, you can get a level, and there'll be varying degrees of numbers based on every different business, but you can get a level of people who are just there for the paycheck. And they might do an okay job and they might sail through, but they're not happy, they're not super productive, but they're draining rather than giving to the environment. And that positive psychology piece about everybody having their own purpose and their own part to play, it allows me to support them in figuring that out and helping the employees actually recognise their own level of buy-in or not, and how that plays into what they want for their life and how that can actually, super connect. And that's been a lot of fun. That's
Yeah.
been really, really fun.
I
And
bet.
what it is basically, it is almost like internal branding.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely.
So it's,
Which I'm totally believed it. I'm totally up for that. I mean, one of
yeah,
the things I love to do is start with a 360. Right, let's have a 360 on, everybody and see what comes back.
yeah,
And I think that's something that all organisations should do on a regular basis to see what's moved. Are we going in the right direction? Is anything coming unstuck or whatever?
yeah.
I'm all for internal polls and things like that. I've been brought up on that, if you like, by some of the businesses I've worked with and some of the clients I've worked with along the way. I've got two or three that are just absolutely brilliant at it. Wherever they go, they take it with them, that model. And I love working with them because they're always listening to their people and they don't always get it right. Of course they don't. We're human. But they are listening and they are trying. And they keep their staff. They keep their staff.
Yeah.
We've just been talking about it here actually today in Spain because we have a builder that we've been using here for 25 years. And the pool man came up today and the painter came yesterday, and it's all the same people. And they stay because the values, the culture, the reward, everything's all just in place. And it's joyous as a customer to have that settled team as well, isn't it? So from a branding point of view, if you've got your team in the right place, the end result customer is going to get the right result too. So yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's really important what you've just said, because a lot of people don't recognise that actually investing in that internal buy-in allows you the opportunity to actually create a better customer journey on the outside. Because, again, the environment of your team and how things are makes a massive difference in terms of customer service or what it is that you're going to be achieving. It's not something that is just a singular
thing, there's a massive return, and there's a longevity to that return as well, which can really support you going forward for a long, long time. And I think people are scared to lose people, but actually, if somebody can be lost from your company quite easily, then it's probably a productive loss. And there is always an opportunity for somebody else to take that seat.
Yeah, and sometimes as well, it's sometimes right that people go, they learn something else, and they come back.
Yeah,
Because, I've had that many times over the years as well, and I've done it myself. I've gone back. Um, I've taken new roles for lesser pay, even because it felt the right thing to do for me at that time, and I've never ever been disappointed by that, because the money is not the number one motivator. So that's a really important part. It's the whole of the job and the package. And so you're absolutely right. And I think, yeah, letting people go sometimes, because sometimes they can't see it.
yeah,
But if you let them go kindly, and with the right support, then it's the right thing to do for everybody. Um,
yeah.
so often, you hear people who've been at jobs like forever, and they've been miserable for half of that life. What is
Right,
that about? Why would you
right.
do that?
I know, and I remember when I worked in corporate, and I won't go into too much detail, but there were a number of people who were definitely dealing with what I would consider to be less than ideal emotional states that were because of the environment within which they were working. Um, people get themselves worried about blame. People get themselves worried
Yeah,
about not being the person who has all the answers. People get threatened by newer, younger people with more experience or a degree or whatever. And all of these things, they compound what could be a really harmonious and beautiful working environment, and slowly, and it is slowly, it's like dripping poison into the water well, but it slowly changes the dynamic of that environment to the point where if that stagnates years later, what you can actually not recognize, and it's like when somebody loses weight, or puts weight on, and you don't recognize because you see them every day, so it's a gradual thing, or the lobster who is
yeah,
boiled in the gradual hot water. Like, you don't notice it, and all of a sudden you turn around, and this, what used to be a beautiful, harmonious situation, is a toxic workplace. And how did that even
yeah,
happen? Because the group of people is the same group of people, but how did that actually occur? And I always think that that's a really good lesson for all of us in terms of how we conduct ourselves, what boundaries we set, and also how we release ourselves from certain types of stress and worry. I think we have to learn how to be solid individuals and not always know all of the answers, and for it to be okay that we don't know all of the answers, and for that to not mean something about our worth the way that we might make it mean. We also have to be the type of people who can, and this goes back to the CEO being the weakest link thing. We have to be the type of people that can own up and go, yeah, that was me. I made that mistake. That was a typo, or and even without the whole, I was tired. I hate excuses. I don't know how you feel about them, Denise, but like, mistakes happen, things happen. Nobody needs six excuses as to why. Like, we all have. I mean, you are amazing. How you juggle what you juggle, I do not know. But like, we all have a lot going on, and there's so many of us that have 101 things going on that will never give you an excuse. It will just be, yes, I did that thing. That thing was wrong. I'm going to learn from that thing, and that's not going to happen again.
exactly that, exactly that. And I embrace those people completely, absolutely embrace them. Yeah, I think, when I finished working with a client, and often we've needed a few tissues along the way, because we go pretty deep at the
Yeah,
beginning and do a sort of we start with the whole chronological part of life, right back to tell me about your childhood. I mean, I'm not a life coach, but we do start there because, as you and I know, those are the foundations of what we take through life. why did that happen? And if you've been a military child that's been moved from base to base and never made relationships and had to keep moving schools, then you've got something inside you often that makes you very unsettled at work, and you don't know when you are settled. That's just an example. I've had two
Yeah.
or three of those. But I think just having the recognition as well, and when I work with people, is finding those trigger points. What is it that makes that go off kilter? Why is it that you think you haven't got that promotion at work? And what makes you think you deserve that promotion? Let's look at the balance of that. Are you just thinking you should have it just because you've been there the longest? Or do you really have those skills? Or is there something else you need to do? So we have some really sort of quite deep journeys on some of that stuff as well. But when we get to the end of it and they go out with a spring in their step, and we come to graduation, and off they go, and everyone stays in touch afterwards anyway. I mean, it's because I'm just me, I'm inherently nosy. I just love to know what everybody's doing and what's happening to them. But I just love watching that, Dawn. I love seeing that, and it's just such a joy for me. That's why I find it so hard to give up, even though everyone keeps telling me I should perhaps take a bit more retirement time. Boring, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I don't
I
know.
just love
I
it.
love
I love it.
I love what you give to the world. I think I'd love for you to take some more time for you because you're a beautiful person. You deserve it. But at the same time, I love the fact that it brings you such joy. And what you give to the world, we still need it. So we still need
Thank
you.
you.
So it's really important. I mean, it's been absolutely joyful talking to you today, Denise. In terms of one lasting hint or tip that we could give our listeners for going through a transition or considering something that might feel really risky for them in their career, but also obviously in their life, what kind of advice would you give?
Okay. I think for me, it's often very hard to be honest with yourself. And for the vast majority of us, we can be most honest when we're writing, and getting it down on paper. And so I've got a little technique that I use. I call it my 3-lane motorway. Um, and when I hit, or when I'm working with my clients, we get a big piece of paper and we draw 3 lanes out. So I've got my inside lane, my middle lane, and my fast lane. And I think, okay, in life, what are my givens? What are the things I know I'm really good at? I know where I function best. I don't have to even think about it. It's just like, putting on my socks in the morning, whatever. And that's everything that goes in my inside lane. That's all my givens. I'm so comfortable in that phase that uh, it's just comfort. And then in the middle lane, I try and get people to recognize everything about themselves that it's not their best skill. So I know I'm not the best completer finisher in the world. I'm in Myers-Briggs, I'm way off on the bottom. So I have to work at that, but I can do it. But I have to recognize that in myself, that if I'm doing something, whether it be a job search or whether it be a project, that if that skill's needed, I need to put something in place to look after the fact it's not my top skill. But there'll also be things in that middle lane that I could get better at. So I want to recognise those, and maybe for my next job, I want to make sure that got that element in there, and that I'm going to get the support and whatever to learn to do it. And then the fast lane is the part that every job should have an element of, every job and every team. And that's the part, the fingernail down the blackboard, the part when you think, this is so scary. I have no idea. I've suddenly got to produce a board pack of financial papers. I've never done that before in my life, and I don't know what to do. Blah, 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 blah. But that's in there, and it's something that's going to stretch you and grow you and make you a better leader, a better manager, a more knowledgeable person. And I think that everything you do, whether you're building a team, we look at teams, and just like you've done with positive psychology, we're looking at the team and saying, right, what are all the elements in that team? Right, who's in the inside lane, who's in the middle lane, who's in the fast lane? So if you are that person that comes to work because you just want a salary and you want to go home, so you're an inside lane person, but is your inside lane person still feeling fulfilled in their part of the wheel? So my motorway is my big tip.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's so clear and concise. I know straight away people will be able to take that away and do something with it. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely delightful to speak with you. Where can people come and find you?
Okay, well, thanks for the opportunity, Dawnnie. I really appreciate it. I always love talking to you. It's such a joy. And they can find me on my the website's one of the easiest things, www.elevatecareerscoach.com. And and just Denise Matthews on LinkedIn. I come up, I think I'm right at the top of there. And I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and I love messaging people. And I love chatting to people. So if they've got something they just want to, talk about, ask questions, there's a link on my on all my socials that you can just book a call and have a chat and see if we can help each other. And I always say that whoever calls me, even if it's not to work together, they'll walk away with a nugget. Every time you'll get a nugget of something which I hope I can help you with.
I certainly do every time we chat. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We'll put all of Denise's information in the description so that you can find her easily. Thank you, Denise, and sending you massive love. Go ahead and enjoy your day over in sunny Spain, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye, Dawnnie.
If you're loving our Pretty podcast, come on over to Social Pretties, our online safe house and sisterhood community. It's a safe space where female entrepreneurs connect and thrive in a warm, welcoming fold of pretty amazing women. You'll find an easy redirect in the description, and I can't wait to see you in there. And depending on where you're listening right now, we would love it if you would click subscribe or follow so that you can be the first to know when our new podcasts come out.